Good morning. Welcome back to your hometown radio station, AM 1360 KOHU. It is time for the Odds and Ends program this morning, and we welcome you in on a Tuesday. It is part of an hour of local programming, as at the bottom of the hour, we'll kick it out to Delish Bistro for the Chamber Business Connection. And we welcome you in. We welcome you as well online at GoHermiston.com and Mixler.com/1360-KOHU. We also welcome you to get your phone right now. I don't often do tickets here at the start of the show, but I've done Rock the Lock tickets in the 6 o'clock hour, in the 7 o'clock hour, and tomorrow it's going to be in the 6:40 block. But this morning, I've got a pair of Rock the Lock tickets. These are for all 3 days. So this is a general admission pass to all 3 days of the concert series that's coming into Umatilla at Big River Golf Course this weekend. And I will go caller 3 right now at 567-6500. Caller 3, 567-6500. Pick yourself up a pair of tickets to this weekend's Rock the Locks. It's good for all 3 days from Seether Dawn, Third Eye Blind, and everything in between. And it's yours if you've got the phone. Dial in right now at 567-6500. Melanie will take care of you. Looking for caller 3 on the phone. We will welcome into the studio the chief of the police department in Hermiston, Jason Edmiston, with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And let's go right off the top. Construction update.
So
September 2025.
Yeah. Last night before the council meeting, we had a workshop, and so we were able to take the council, those that were able to make it, through the building. Insulation is entirely up, and I would say probably, I didn't look at the chart, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 40 to 50% of the drywall is up. They haven't started mudding yet. Going to see a lot of work outside this week. I know they're pouring this morning, more concrete. And then just with as you can tell, the colder weather, they're trying to ensure that the parking lot, which looks very big when you stand in it with nothing else out there, that it gets poured before the asphalt plants close down for the winter. So council did ask that question last night. The contractors, McCormick Construction, gave the answer of mid-January, first part of February, which is right where we've been talking the whole time. I still think just inevitably with the holidays, people taking time off, probably going to be closer to that end of January, first part of February, but very excited. I was trying to explain it last night. It's such a challenge having the department in 4 different locations, with the majority of the department still somewhat on site at our annex building. We still have the new evidence processing area, have people stationed at City Hall, and then have several of us stationed over at the ARC. And so just trying to ensure communication keeps up amongst us, coupled with the fact that we have had so many changes personnel-wise, just in the last 10 months. First part of August was my annual evaluation, and so when we do those, there's a self-evaluation form, and I can't remember what the question was exactly, but talked about significant challenges, and so I wrote in there that in my 28 years with the city, the last 10 months, aside from the summer of 2020, the last 10 months have been the most challenging, because at that time we had 25 different personnel changes. And what I mean by that is not only new hires, retirements, promotions, people being assigned to different collateral duties, a lot of change. A young department. I think the last time I was on, I talked about I need to get back and see how much we have lowered the average patrol officer age just in the last couple of years. I will do that because we were hovering somewhere around 42, 43 years old. I think we're easily down into the low 30s now.
When you think about a much younger department, anecdotally, what are the systems you put in place to try to season that group as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so I think I might have briefly mentioned it the last time I was on the show, but one thing that has been obvious to me for the last several months as we hire these new officers who, they're very green. We were all new in our positions at one point in time, but just the nexus of the whole broken windows concept and how code enforcement plays a critical role in that. A lot of people may not know, but by choice, we handle all animal complaints. And, I bring that up because animal complaints can be very emotionally charged. And so I feel it's best to have a sworn police officer handle those versus, a non-sworn code official or whatever the case may be. And so so we still, even though we haven't supervised code enforcement for roughly the last 5 years, we still do code enforcement. And so back to your question, I talked to, since we have 4 brand new sergeants, 2 brand new lieutenants, 1 brand new captain, all in new assignments. I talked about the need for the younger officers to see how important livability is. We for years, the last 10, 12 years, we have livability issues as one of our department goals, yet, not to sound arrogant, I know what it means, but, the $64,000 question is, do they know what it means? And so I've been pleasantly surprised. Contrary to what some might think, I really stay out of officer discretion as far as the choices they make out on the road, what to enforce, things along those lines. However, this quote-unquote livability campaign that we started at the first of the month is really interesting because last night at the council there was a lot of commentary about livability matters. It was very professional last night. The council heard from a citizen for quite some time and brought up a lot of things that, ironically, we've been talking about internally within the department. And, how we can have some sort of positive impact on that. The glaring one, if you will, for lack of better words, is homeless. And, is homeless really a police matter? I would argue no. We're not social workers. However, there's a lot of trickle down that comes from, people that are displaced or people that are under the influence of controlled substances, people that suffer from mental illness. Inevitably, we're going to get called anyways. And so all these moving parts, coupled with our new partnership with the hospital, I think we're setting the table, if you will, to hopefully see some good results. Oftentimes, what needs to happen is enforcement needs to take place. You can't just expect to educate, and think that problems are going to go away. We have to take enforcement action. And so, for example, for years we've had some challenges with corporate entities and decision making, and everybody being very risk averse when it comes to something as simple as shopping carts. And so we had a sergeant that on her own, went out, made contact again, and tried to kind of revitalize the fact that that's your property going off of your property, and we don't think that's right. And so we've got a lot of work to do on that, but writing somebody a citation is not fun. However, again, sometimes it's necessary to try to get the point across. And so we've had some enforcement action there. I know just this month there's been well over 24 citations for, one of the things that was complained about last night, just people camping out anywhere and everywhere. So I plan on doing some sort of a written report to the Public Safety Committee in October. That's normally when we meet. And so September's only 1 month, but my hope is that the troops see how important this is and that we carry it forward.
Jason Edmiston, Chief of the Hermiston Police Department, with you on the Ons and Ends program this Tuesday at 8:15. Just the idea, how defined is the definition of what a livability issue is?
Well, your livability issue might be different than mine.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder how do you approach that? Because your livability definition might be different than that of your new, patrol officer.
Absolutely. And that's the slippery slope. So the only discretion, if you will, aside from statutory, thou shalt make an arrest on a domestic violence, the only thing where we have impeded officer discretion is, ironically, a livability issue, and that's on unlawful application of graffiti. So if we work a graffiti case and are able to link it back to somebody, and that somebody is under the age of 18, the officer has no choice but to cite the parent for fail to supervise their child. That's a stance we have taken for many years.
Gosh, a decade at least, it seems like, yeah.
And graffiti can be very cyclical. It goes up and down. And, we're seeing some interesting things out there in the world of the youth, being very aggressive with their parents. I probably won't even go down the path of kind of where I'm getting at, but back to your question, my livability, for example, I really don't care if a person wants to play their car stereo loud out on 395, but when they get into the neighborhoods, it's one of the things that just drives me nuts. And so there is a statute for enforcement of that. And before I came over this morning, I went through the citations for the month real quick just to see what kind of livability issues we have, and that one's on there where officers have taken action. And so I don't want to thrust that on them. I'll let them figure it out themselves. But they're the ones that are talking to the community members. They're the ones that loud vehicle noise. They're the ones that field those complaints from people. And I think. Not to get political, because I'm not political, I'm appointed, but I firmly believe the overwhelming majority of us are in the middle of the road. And, when it comes to politics or when it comes to just livability, leave me alone and I won't, I'll leave you alone, in essence, if you want to dumb it down to the, about as fine as you can.
When it comes to the training piece of trying to get this to be a point of emphasis, does that mean encouraging more contact with the people who are transient? Does that mean more contact with people who's got a dog that just won't stop barking kind of thing?
So twofold. One, you need to train your people, and so the most difficult job, bar none, in any police department in America is the first line supervisor, the sergeant, the patrol sergeant. That's definitely where the rubber meets the road. That is, when all of admin is at home and in bed asleep, they're out there making split second decisions. So making sure that our sergeants are trained. And so for the last 20 years, brand new sergeants we send to a month-long school in Texas. It's in Plano, Texas. It just exposes them to how other agencies in America police. There's a lot of things that happen west of the Mississippi border that are right because they feel right, and then there's things you hear that happen east, and it's like, you guys still do what? It's very interesting. So I think that's first and foremost, is empowering your sergeants so that they then empower the officers that work for them. Back to the contact piece that you brought up, I've been tracking since August of 2020 the amount of calls for service that we respond to that involve a transient or transient. And it started out at roughly 20% of our call load, then it went up to 25%, then it hit 30% a couple of years ago, and now we're back down to the 25 percentile, which in my opinion is still high. 1/4 of the calls that we respond to involve a transient or transient. And so to your question, I have to be very careful when I'm compiling those numbers, because anybody can manipulate numbers, that we're not adding this livability campaign, which is very proactive, going out there and trying to stop things before they're happening, or just not turning a blind eye and taking action. See a shopping cart, somebody's pushing it, you stop and take the action you need to take.
Jason Edmiston's the chief of the Hermiston Police Department here on the Odds and Ends program at 8:20 on AM 1360 KOHU. With all of that turnover that you talked about, especially through the summer, is it more challenging to train somebody who's brand new, like as a patrol officer, or is it more challenging to get somebody up to speed when they've advanced into a new rank and they have a new role?
I think it's probably more challenging for the more experienced officer that's migrating through, because the brand new officer, in essence, is a sponge. And that's why we, again, not to sound like Hermiston is the latest and greatest, but we like to hire entry-level people so that we can train them our way. This is how we do business. This is how our citizens expect us to do business. When you have an experienced officer, like it or not, the overwhelming majority of people in this profession are type A personalities, and so that can be a challenge. And sometimes people think they may already have a solution or know everything, and so fortunately we have a great group of people. I tell people all the time I feel incredibly blessed to work with what we have, to have the support of the city manager and the other elected officials. The city manager, he had two brothers that were in law enforcement, so I picked up on that early on and knew, hey, this is a guy that knows where I'm coming from, and in essence, don't try to shine him on and shoot him straight. And so over the course of the last several years, we've, when we got into those staffing concerns, he knew that when I raised those, that they were legitimate. And so a lot of change, a lot of expectations being placed upon us, probably more so by ourselves, just to make sure that we are dotting all the I's, crossing the T's, and trying to put forth the best product that we can. There are so many other challenges in the criminal justice system. I could go on and on and on. Just like with struggles finding officers, in the system itself, struggles finding prosecutors and defense attorneys that want to come out to Eastern Oregon to do their practice, and so,
public defenders.
Exactly. So the district attorney's office is down numerous bodies, and my fear is the quote unquote wheels of justice are going to slow down even further, even as we are taking some of these actions.
How will you assess whether or not this emphasis on livability issues is successful?
That's a tough question, and I don't think anybody's asked me that yet. And hopefully, I have a better answer for you when I come back the next time. Because
you're not. It's improbable to fix that 100%. Like, it just, there's always going to be things for you to do so you have a job. But
yeah.
When you think about how, in another week or so, if you're assessing the month of September, where do you think you'll look first?
The slippery slope is to look towards the visibility. What do you see? And so we have had discussions. It was mentioned last night by this person that spoke, and I sat there because this is something I have said. The amount of people that he raised McKenzie Park and some of the problems taking place there. He talked about going to the post office every morning, and I've mentioned this in the last several weeks. Like, okay, is there a better stop for some of the pickups and drop-offs that are taking place? And unfortunately, there's a lot of the not in my backyard that takes place with anything and everything, and so. The slippery slope would be to look at visibility, because if you don't see the problem, then you might tell yourself the problem's not there. We know that's not true. There are people that are struggling. I'm not to get too far in the weeds, but I'm incredibly frustrated with the legislature constantly kicking the can when it comes to mental health. And, there's this sense of, we need to do more of this, or push more on to law enforcement, train up law enforcement more. We need to hold people accountable. And people that can't hold themselves accountable need the assistance that I think, any good-hearted person wants to give them. Now, what's the magic solution? I'm not sure. But allowing people to just deteriorate with the community watching it around them is frustrating for everybody. And so not quite sure. Again, I'll stew on that and come back with a little bit better answer. I could bring statistics, but that's just one part of the equation. That's the enforcement, and we don't. A lot of times we don't know what happens in the courtroom. A lot of people don't realize that, but police officers do their job. They move on, and then the court handles XYZ.
No, that was the second half hour of the show. Law and order, and then, Jason Edmiston with us this morning here on the Odds and Ends program. I realized I did not ask you when you were here last month, but it was after the conclusion of fair. Hey, when you look at, for you guys, the fair is still inside Hermiston. I mean, when you looked at the fair this year, how did it go from your perspective?
It's night and day. Ever since it moved up to EOTech, it is so nice. Having said that, there was some discussion and some frustration on the part of our people. I'm just thinking of the fair parade itself, just the safety of the fair parade, and then. We have these rules. The county fair has rules. No throwing candy. Well, everybody
throws candy,
and so you're encouraging young people to come out into the street where huge, farm implements, whatever the case may be. So I know I had, we had a lieutenant that was brand new in place, and it stressed him out. This was his first go at it. And so the fair itself, we work in conjunction with the Umatilla County Sheriff's Office, and so everything that happens up at EOTech, knock on wood, for the last several years has been great. I think we got a lot of work to do. We changed the fair parade route, but I think, we did a after-action memorandum, sent it to my boss, and I'm hopeful that conversations continue about, does the fair need to hire some additional security to help keep people out of the street? And we'll see where those conversations go.
Very good. Well, as ever, we appreciate the conversation. Thanks for being with us this morning.
You bet. Who won the tickets?
Somebody won the tickets. Somebody won the tickets. They talked to Melanie. They'll come in and pick them up. We'll have more tickets for Rock the Locks tomorrow on the Morning Drive. Jason Edmiston with us this morning here on the Odds and Ends program. Out to Delish Bistro. Angela's back, and she's got to the Chamber Business Connection next.
This is Hermiston School District Superintendent Tricia Mooney. Parents and guardians, bus route information is available on our district website under the Parents and Community